ACC Media Days and ACC kickoff has come and gone. Fall camp starts here today for the Duke football team. We've got questions to answer. Mailbag Monday time on Locked On Blue Devils.
Hi, everybody. Dick Vitale. Hey, make sure you listen, man, to Locked On Blue Devils with J.J. Jackson. He's awesome, baby.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is J.J. Jackson. It's so great to have you here with us today on Monday, July 28th, 2025. Locked On Blue Devils is your one-stop shop where we discuss everything happening in the life of Duke athletics. We've got a Mailbag Monday program of the show today, where we're going to be joined by our good friend Kevin Connelly from Ball Durham, answering your questions, football and basketball mixed in here as we're fresh off our week in Charlotte at ACC kickoff, at ACC Media Days. Thanks to all the support that we had over the last week. I know from time to time it was difficult for some of the audio quality that we had in our interviews there on Radio Row, but so exciting to be in the heart of the action. A lot of great guests stop by our show, and really thankful for the support that you guys give this podcast each and every day. If you have not done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free, wherever it is that you get your podcast. Leave us a 5-star rating and written review. Watch our show each and every day on YouTube. And most importantly, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Your support in that regard means so much to us here at Locked On Blue Devils. So without further ado, let's bring him on into today's show. My very good friend, Kevin Connelly, back with us on the program today. All's well in the world, Kevin, because here we are. We're at ACC kickoff last week. Coaches hyping up the start of the college football season. NFL training camps have been going on for a little bit. We've got the Hall of Fame game later this week. And here today, Duke football opens fall camp. It seems as though the sports calendar is finally back the way we like it.
Yeah, it's turning, and football's back. Football's in the air. I know it's still a little hot out there for everybody in camp and getting in pads, but certainly great to have football not officially back, but certainly on the cusp.
So we've got a Mailbag Monday that we're going to dive into here today. We'll talk a little football and basketball on the program. And these questions were compiled together. Folks sent them on X at LO_Blue Devils. Also send us emails, lockedonbluedevils@gmail.com. And one of our newest ways to receive those mailbag questions is via our YouTube page. Look out for the posts when we ask for those questions. Love to answer them on the show. So, Kevin, let's get after it as we take a look at the first question that comes in. What is your takeaway from ACC Media Days on the external expectations for Duke football this season? It was really fun to be there in Charlotte, getting to talk with the various ACC network hosts on the program here. And I walked away relatively pleased with, I think, the excitement that people have on a Duke football team that's won 26 games combined over the last 3 seasons, that win big in the transfer portal by taking Darian Mensah at that quarterback spot, and a favorable schedule that Duke has. When you were kind of reading and following along, did you sense similar vibes when you look at those external expectations?
You know, JJ, I kind of did, but I also think when you look at it, I feel like they're being underrated a little bit as well. I kind of feel like it's a little bit from last year, although not as drastic. I think last year in the media poll, they were picked maybe around 10th or so. I don't know it off the top of my head. And then this year, obviously, they were 6th. So obviously, you see the rise in expectations right off the preseason poll in the conference. But I think a lot of the conversation is around Clemson. It is around Miami. And kind of when you SMU to a little bit of the conversation as well. But once you drop out of those top 3, I feel like everyone just bunches together like 4 through 10, and you have the ability to fly under the radar, especially if you're in the middle of the pack of those teams. And we know Florida State is also in that middle of the pack and coming off such a disastrous season
Horrible
last
year. Yeah,
like no one could have imagined it. And I feel like they might be getting some more publicity compared to a team like Duke, although Duke is higher than them in the preseason poll, just because it is a marquee program in the sport and there's a lot of eyeballs on that team. But yeah, I can feel the excitement with this Duke team. I feel the confidence with this Duke team. I know we're going to get into the quarterback a little bit later on, given that he is getting a lot of money to play quarterback for this team, and there are a lot of expectations on him. So yeah, I kind of agree with your sentiment that I do feel the excitement for this team and the expectations, but to the same extent, I also kind of see them flying a little bit under the radar, because when you talk about ACC football, it takes a little bit of a while before you get to the Duke Blue Devils.
Dude, it's crazy to even be having positive expectations for Duke football, right? Like, this is a very fair question that was sent to us, and who would have thought a few years ago that Duke would even be in a position like this? Credit to David Cutcliffe for what he built over the decade plus, 2 strong years with Mike Elko, and now we're getting set for the second season of Manny Diaz. I love that we're able to talk about the Duke football team in this regard. And undervalue them. Watch what Duke's going to be able to do this upcoming season. All right, you said we'll talk quarterbacks. Let's do it right now. Question, where does Darian Mensah rank amongst recent Duke quarterbacks and amongst ACC quarterbacks this season? Take a stab at this one, Kev.
Well, okay, so this is kind of tough, because even though he hasn't had the success in the NFL that many people, especially around Duke, would have liked to have seen so far. I mean, Daniel Jones was still a top 10 pick in the NFL draft.
And you've been right there in the New York area seeing it all unfold.
Yeah, people were rooting for him. They wanted him to do well. Obviously didn't work out. Now he's with the Indianapolis Colts competing for a starting quarterback job. I think you still have to look at Riley Leonard and what he did in his year plus, really stepping into the spotlight. That victory over Clemson really catapulted him into the national spotlight. And then obviously the injury happens against Notre Dame, and he's never the same for the rest of the season for Duke. So, it's tough to say this as a projection, but I think he has to be at least his ceiling right now going into the year is number 3. Because I think Daniel Jones and Riley Leonard still have to be 1 and 2 in that recent Duke football quarterback rankings of where you're going to put Darian Mensah. And then around the rest of the ACC, I think it's interesting. Obviously, he's behind a guy like Cade Klubnik of Clemson. You would think, at least right now, he's behind a Carson Beck at Miami, although a lot of people have questions about him. I think when you look solely at quarterbacks, you could have Darian Mensah in that 3 to 5 range of ACC quarterbacks.
Without a doubt. I mean, I think people are really excited about what he's going to be able to do for Duke football going into this upcoming season. Looking at recent quarterbacks, you mentioned what Riley Leonard was able to do. You mentioned what somebody like Daniel Jones was able to do. Let's not forget, it's just 1 year, so that makes the sample size equation and all of this difficult to kind of forecast. But I think you got to be thrilled with what you got out of Malik Murphy. I mean, in all, setting your program record for so many passing statistics within an individual season, that's got to speak for itself. Although the caveat and the counterpunch there would be that it was just for 1 season. But let's dive a little deeper into Darian Mensah from the ACC perspective in this, because you mentioned 2 names there that I find fascinating in Cade Klubnik and then also in Carson Beck. In that conversation towards the top, I think people love Kevin Jennings, who led SMU to the playoffs last season. He's back for another year at quarterback. You see Hayes King have a big season for Georgia Tech after transferring from Texas A&M. Then Miller Moss, by way of USC, now takes over at Louisville. I think those guys and Darian Mensah are all grouped together. But what we're coming away saying here, Kevin, is you're looking at a top half towards the top of the ACC quarterback that Duke's got in Darian Mensah.
Yeah, when I mentioned Cade Klubnik and Carson Beck, I should have put Haynes King in there as well. I think when he was on the field for Georgia Tech, he was really special last season. So I think I should have put him in that top tier of ACC quarterbacks. You look at SMU's quarterback, Kevin Jennings. I think
playoff experience.
playoff experience. But I also think when you look at a player like him, it's boom or bust, right? The highs are really, really good. And then some of his lows, like he played against Penn State in the playoff, is
the
really,
Duke game.
really
He turned
low.
it over 6 times.
Exactly. So that's a feast or famine, boom or bust. So I think if you're Darian Mensah, and when you mentioned Miller Moss, I think Miller Moss is good. I think maybe there's a little bit to desire. You want to see a little bit more from him. Obviously, everyone knows the quarterback tree that Lincoln Riley has kind of developed from Oklahoma and now to USC. And the fact that Miller Moss kind of left him and is now at Louisville, I think there could be a couple of questions there. But Darian Mensah, big-time expectations on his shoulders. And like I said, I expect him to be a top 5 quarterback in the ACC this year.
All right, let's take our first break here on the show today. We're talking through our Mailbag Monday. Enjoyed those football questions. Let's shift gears now. We got to talk basketball. We love Duke basketball. It never stops, and we've got some of your mailbag questions coming your way right after this. Locked On Blue Devils here today, brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. Do you ever wish managing your money felt easier? Well, with Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. When I started using Monarch Money, I was able to see some surprising things, like just how much I was spending on things like food delivery. Now I'm able to budget smarter and save more. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Monarch Money is a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Here we go. JJ Jackson alongside Kevin Connelly from Ball Durham. We're doing a Mailbag Monday on the show today. Enjoyed talking football a moment ago. Now it's only right that we shift gears over to basketball. So we move on to our next question. What do you think of Duke's recent exhibition announcement of playing Tennessee at TBA? Not to be announced, Thompson Bowling Arena, as it's known. Kevin, what do you think of this announcement of an exhibition between Duke and the Vols?
Well, don't get me wrong. I think it's great, right? You're getting experience traveling, going to play what is supposed to be a really good team in what was the best league in the country last year in the SEC. So I think it's really good. Now, I will add to that. I'm not in the camp of this adds to the great, or this makes the greatest non-conference schedule in college basketball history. I'm not in that camp of like, this is officially part of the non-conference schedule. Like, if Duke wins this game by 100, if they lose this game by 100, it's still an exhibition. It still doesn't count. And I think now with some of these exhibitions, like how they're becoming more and more public, how people can now watch them because they're going to be streamed or televised, or you can attend them. I think you're going to see some of the not lopsided, but interesting scores that perhaps we got reports of in years past with those secret scrimmages, right? This would probably be a secret scrimmage if we were 2-3 years in the past. And later that night or the next day, a box score would have magically emerged on social media, or a final score would have emerged. So don't get me wrong. I think it's great. I think it's great experience for this team, a young team, especially being able to go on the road. And now I'm not expecting it's going to be an environment that you're going to see in January when you go on the road in conference play, but it's certainly going to be a somewhat lively environment when you get in these exhibition games. Both teams definitely want to win. The coaching staffs might coach the first half of getting guys on the floor, getting them experience, getting their feet wet. And then in the second half, it's like, okay, it's go time. We're going to play our best guys and try to win this basketball game. So I think it's great. And also the fact that they have a exhibition game at home against UCF, I think that'll serve them really well in the preseason as well.
I mean, this is a massive test against an SEC team on the road. It's going to be a Sunday game that this takes place. So in the heart of the NFL season in October, you'll see Duke at Tennessee playing the Vols. There's another dynamic here, Kevin, another angle that we could look at in the Nate Ament of it all, the upcoming five-star freshman who's right there towards the top of the class with Cam Boozer. You were following this day by day over at Ball Durham. I really loved your writing and reporting on it. But Duke was in it until the very end for his services to be a recruit. And now here he goes in a contest against the Blue Devils.
Yeah, certainly. I think it's interesting. I think it's cool to talk about. But like kind of what I said of not really clumping this with a non-conference schedule, the fact that it is a preseason game, that it is an exhibition, and it doesn't count. Like, I'm not reading that much into it. Like, is Duke going to specifically in an exhibition want to prove Nate Ament wrong, or vice versa, that Duke kind of pulled out of the recruitment? Is Nate Ament going to want to certainly prove them wrong in an exhibition? I don't know if I'd go that far, but it's certainly something that's worth monitoring. And if he does go for 35 points on Duke in this game, is the next day's Locked On Blue Devils podcast going to be, did Duke make a mistake not going after Nate Ament as hard?
You know, it will be.
We're certainly going to enjoy that storyline. Yes. But is it going to necessarily be a major factor in an exhibition game? I'm not so sure about that.
It doesn't matter. It's an exhibition game. Yeah. I'm trying to tell that to myself, Kevin. And yet, when it happens, I want Duke to win, man. The score is going to be kept, and I'm going to have feelings if they lose, and I don't want to have to go through that. We already lost to those guys in the NCAA tournament.
All right, JJ, come on. You gotta hang with me here. If they win, have the great feelings. This is going to be the greatest team of all time. They're going to win a national championship. But if they lose, don't go 0-30 on me, man. Don't do it.
I won't do that. I won't
never
do
going to win. Don't do that.
But if it was a regular season game, I might be more tempted to do something like that.
Regular season, I got you.
There's also
we're still going to have 2 weeks, I think, or thereabouts after this game until Texas and Charlotte. So we got time, even though if they don't play that well, we still got time they can still fix things.
Yeah, there's also the family dynamic that I've personally got in this with my brother Eli being a Tennessee grad, living in Knoxville still with his lovely bride. So hopefully for the family dynamics, the banter back and forth, Duke is able to win this one. Okay.
I know, JJ, you might have to put a piece of pizza on that now. I know it's an exhibition game, but you and your brother might have to put a piece of pizza or something.
Yeah, something on the line for sure. For sure. All right. Next question. How many players will Duke keep in their rotation to start the year? I love this one. We talk about this angle of it every season, Kev.
Yeah, no, we really do. And like beginning of the season, you're assuming the rotation is going to be a little bit bigger, right?
Yeah.
And then as you get later into the season, that's when you see it start to shrink. So at the beginning of the season, I mean, I see obviously Caleb Foster, Isaiah Evans, Dame Sarr, Cam Boozer, and Pat Gongba, right? I think a lot of people think that's going to be your starting five. And then obviously off the bench, Nick Hemenia, I can certainly see him coming off the bench. Caden Boozer, I think, is going to get time coming off the bench early in the season. Malik Brown, obviously pending shoulder health. I know he's expected to go through contact drills probably in about a month, I think, right around September 1st, the start of fall practice. He's really supposed to be fully cleared for contact. So obviously he's going to be coming off the bench. And I think the two question marks of how much time are they going to get initially to start the season. I think you're looking at Darren Harris, the sophomore shooting guard, obviously, and then Sebastian Wilkins, the freshman who reclassed from Brewster Academy. We've heard a lot of good things about him so far in these summer workouts and practices. I think the early part of the season for him especially is going to be important to prove that he can belong. But JJ, I will add this. Remember, this is a loaded Duke regular season non-conference schedule. And we kind of saw it a little bit last year where Jon Scheyer stuck to his 5 to 7 in those big time games.
You're right.
Because remember, Isaiah Evans, it was the surprise that he got playing time against Auburn and then hit those 6 3-pointers in the first half. He didn't really play against Kansas. He didn't really play against Kentucky. So I think when you're talking about, okay, are these guys going to be in the rotation early in the season? I say yes with an asterisk of against the mid-majors maybe. I don't know if Sebastian Wilkins and Darren Harris and even a Caden Boozer, how much playing time they're going to get on opening night against Texas.
And the question asking how many are in the rotation to start the year, I think we're settling on the 8 or 9 number.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want Darren Harris to be a part of this. It was fun to see our buddy Josh Cox in person at ACC kickoff this past week, and he was reminding everybody, got to see a couple of Locked On Blue Devils everydayers out there, that I was so high on the Jaden Shoot train over the last few seasons, and here I am trying to do the same thing with Darren Harris. So this is his year. It's going to happen. Let's get him some good run out there. Speaking of, is it his year? We've got some Caleb Foster angles to talk about as we conclude this Mailbag Monday of Locked On Blue Devils right after this. Locked On Blue Devils here today, brought to you by our friends at Game Time. We've all been there, logging on early and waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. The frustration, the anger, all the feelings that you feel. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Game Time comes in. Game Time makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime, and you can save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Whether that be to a concert or show, they've also got sporting events as well. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. I love that in the app, I'm able to see a panoramic seat view before I even buy the ticket, so there are no surprises. Terms apply. Once again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Game Time is a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. All right, we move forward with Kevin Connelly here on the show today. One more question to go. It's Mailbag Monday. Again, thanks for sending in all your questions to us via email, lockedonbluedevils@gmail.com, or on these YouTube videos. You can also send it to us on X at @LO_Blue Devils. To close it out here today, Kevin, how about this question? Can we expect a year 3 jump from Caleb Foster? I think of recent year 3 jumps. Wendell Moore Jr. was incredible in Duke's 2022 Final Four run. Tyrese Proctor just had a bit of a year 3 jump a season ago. Can we expect something similar for Caleb Foster?
I don't know if the question is, can you expect it? I think you have to expect it because, as I've said throughout this summer on your show, JJ, point guard's the biggest question I have with this team. And if you don't get a year 3 jump from Caleb Foster, who is the projected starting point guard, you have a freshman behind him in Caden Boozer, who I think some people, especially that I've talked to, can see him being a multi-year player. Now, people thought Con Knippel was going to be a multi-year player around this time last year, and obviously that changed. So maybe Caden Boozer is a Con Knippel-like and has a tremendous freshman season and proves that he can play point guard and play it at a high level, and there's no drop-off in this team roles. But if we're expecting Caden Boozer to have an adjustment period to the college game and you don't get a year 3 jump for Caleb Foster and you see more of what you saw year 2 from him, I think there's a lot of trouble on this team because there is no Sion James that could step in and play point guard. There is no Con Knippel, at least right now, who could step in and play point guard. Now, I know people have hyped up the ball handling skills and the passing ability of Nick Kamenia, and maybe he could play some point guard if things don't pan out as people are hoping with Caleb Foster or Caden Boozer. But I think it's a lot to ask for a guy who's coming into your program as a forward.
Yeah, I'm also hopeful for the offensive creation we might be able to see from Isaiah Evans. We know he can create shots for himself, right? He's a guy that's ready to pull the trigger and let that thing fly. What can he do creating? I think we can expect it, obviously, and you made a better point that we need to see a year 3 jump from Caleb Foster. I've seen a couple of comments from our everydayers out there. People are selling the Caleb Foster stock like crazy, and I hope he proves all of them wrong. I am rooting hard for Caleb Foster to have a monster season here for Duke.
Yeah, you can't sell the stock because you need the stock. Now, I'm no stock market expert. I don't even know if that makes sense. But
I think it does. Yeah.
In order for Duke to be successful this upcoming season, Caleb Foster has to be playing very good basketball. And that's not to say he has to be scoring 15 points per game. He has to be the facilitator. He has to be the orchestrator of what things happen on the court. And let's not forget, he's the leadership too.
Yeah.
He's the junior leader. Yes, Malik Brown is going to be in the program for 2 years, and he'll be in his senior season. Yes, Darren Harris and Isaiah Evans and Pat Gongba. But for Caleb Foster, he's the Tyrese Proctor that everybody's going to look to for leadership, because he's been in this program with Jon Scheyer for 3 years. He had a good freshman season. He got hurt. He did not play well as a sophomore, and then kind of broke out of his shell in his major slump late in the season. But Duke needs him to play well from October to April, and you can't be selling stock on that, because how important he is to this operation for this upcoming season.
No doubt. Excited to see what he can do for Duke here in the 2025-2026 season. Excited for the conversations we'll have throughout the course of the year, Kevin. We're going to have another one tomorrow. You'll be back for tomorrow's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. I want people in the meantime to go support your work over at Ball Durham. How can they do that? How can they get involved?
Best way to do it is to come read us every single day at balldurham.com. We got tons of stuff up there, Duke football, getting ready for the season, as well as always covering Duke basketball, because as you said at the top of the show, JJ, Duke basketball never stops.
Never does. Kevin, I'll see you tomorrow, man.
Thanks, JJ. Can't wait.
All right, that's Kevin Connelly joining us here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Go support their work over at Ball Durham. Thanks for all the mailbag questions. If you have any questions that you would like us to answer next week, go ahead and send us an email, lockedonbluedevils@gmail.com. Also send it to us on X, maybe at LO_Blue Devils. You can comment on these videos as well. And when we ask for posts later in the week on our YouTube channel, hit us up there and we'll answer your questions on a future show. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Continue to spread the word. We are getting closer and closer to 4,000 subscribers on Locked On Blue Devils. Thank you for being a part of the journey. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you tomorrow. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.